mode.
Welcome to today's Leadership in Action Lunch and Learn webinar. Today we are teaming up with our National Philanthropy HOBY to discuss the HOBY Methodology. Participating today will get you 8 Leadership in Action points, so thank you for being here. If you have any questions during this webinar, you can ask them in the GoToWebinar box on your screen. There will be a couple of polls in this webinar. During that time, you can pick one of the answers by clicking it on your screen. Vicki Ferentz-Ray, Chief National Program Officer for HOBY, is joining us today. A little background on Vicki. She oversees the program department staff of 10 who supervise 58 U.S. affiliates and 70 program sites across all 50 states, plus international programs and a network of over 4,000 volunteers serving approximately 10,000 students. Vicki was a HOBY volunteer for 15 years before becoming a staff member at HOBY International in late 2004. Thank you for joining us today, Vicki.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you again for the third time this semester. And I'm sure that all of you are looking forward to the end of semester, as am I, since I'm a PhD candidate myself in administration and leadership studies. So I know this time of the year can be a little crazy, which makes it all that much more nice that you've decided to join us today for this webinar. So thank you for taking some time to do that. So actually, Danielle, let's go on to the poll questions. So the first poll question is, what does SCM stand for? Hopefully you've participated in prior webinars, and if not, that's okay. We're happy to have you join us today too. So what does SCM stand for? Go ahead and put in your answer. And Danielle will give us the results here in just a minute, once everybody has theirs in. SCM stands for Social Change Model. And she was tricky there on her answers, wasn't she? And we have another poll question, which is, what does SLM stand for, if you were on a previous webinar? And if not, again, that's totally okay. Go ahead and put in your answer. And again, Danielle will give us results here in just a minute. That is correct, the service learning model. Wonderful. All right, great. So we are going to do a little bit of a review from the prior two webinars, just to bring you up to speed a bit if you hadn't attended the prior two webinars before we go on with this one. So this next slide here is a diagram of the social change model of leadership. And I would also refer you to the complete webinar on the social change model, which we did in February and is posted for you to access. But just as a reminder to note the 3 circles representing the value categories of individual, group, and society. And note that each of the value categories is inextricably tied to the others. And that at the center of the diagram is change. And so, just as the name, the social change model of leadership, the ultimate goal is change. Going on to the next one, a brief review of the service learning model, Depiction. And again, I'd refer you to the complete service learning model webinar, which is posted for you. But we start at the top with a concrete experience, followed by reflective observation, followed by formation of abstract concepts, and followed by active experimentation. So these 4 stages are integral to the service learning experience. Students participate in a service experience, then through reflection, they integrate abstract concepts learned in the classroom to better actively understand their experience, and then they can figure out what they would change with that moving forward to the next experience. So that's basically it in a very small nutshell, but just to catch up anybody who wasn't on the previous 2 webinars so that we can move on to HOBY's model, which is really the topic of this webinar. So HOBY believes that leadership is action, not title or position, and that no matter the leader's age, role, or sector, effective positive leadership is ultimately service to humanity for the better of the world. And you're going to see how this plays out when we create HOBY's model of leadership and service. So this is what HOBY's view of the social change model looks like. So that was the first chart that we looked at with the circles on it. But for HOBY's purposes, you'll see overlap between group leadership, personal leadership, and societal leadership. So these 3 sets of values all come together and are necessary simultaneously in order for L4S to occur, which is HOBY's leadership for service elements. So to implement a service project well, students must understand that they need to attend to all 3, personal leadership, group leadership, and leadership for society when doing leadership for service. So the next chart is HOBY's leadership for service model, or HOBY's leadership action model, sometimes it's called. And so when you combine the social change model with the service learning methodology, you get a truly powerful experiential learning pedagogy, as it would be called in academic terms. So this is the HOBY Active Leadership Cycle, or Leadership for Service model, which applies to both service and leadership. And you'll notice it's very similar to the experiential learning model and the service learning model that we looked at previously. So in particular, the action, the reflection on the experience, and innovating for the next time around. So when you're looking at this model, you want to think of the circle as the leadership for service portion of the prior model. So Danielle, can you just flip back 1 slide for me? So that little L for S in the middle here, where you have the overlap of the personal leadership, group leadership, and societal leadership. Now go forward 1 slide. That L for S piece is this learn, act, reflect, innovate going on in the center of all of that. Okay? So in essence, this cycle represents that center portion, leadership for service portion of the social change model graphic. So if you go to the next slide, so really what we have is HOBY's model is a model within a model. Basically, it's the integration of 2 models together, the social change model with the leadership for service model, and that kind of together becomes HOBY's model of leadership and service. So we do cover leadership development from 3 perspectives, personal, group, and societal, and leadership for service is used to practice these leadership skills while serving. So there's a very actually practical reason. I mean, obviously this aligns with HOBY's belief system and with our values and our mission and our vision statement. But there's also actually a very practical reason why we encourage students to do service. And that is because when you're young, especially, HOBY works with students in high school, but even in college, you don't necessarily hold a lot of positions with official titles or a lot of power. But everybody can serve and everybody can practice their leadership skills while serving. So it actually serves a very practical purpose as well. So in terms of how this gets incorporated into our programs, all of our programs are really interactive and dynamic. They all use the social change model of leadership development with the service learning methodology, as we discussed. We do actually teach our students the theory, kind of as I'm talking to you today, and the information behind what we're doing. But then there's also very interactive portions of the program where they interact with adult leaders, listen to motivational speakers, participate in leadership activities and service projects, explore their own personal leadership skills, practice leading a team through some group exercises, and consider how they can make a positive impact in their community or that societal change. So, and we try to make sure that everything that we do is a mix, so that we use a combination of methods to facilitate learning by every young leader, because we all know that different people have different learning styles. So we try to include presentations, guided journaling, simulation activities, field trips, service projects, and small group facilitated discussions, so that everybody has a chance to learn from the model. So at this point, we've got a couple other poll questions. What are some skills that you learned by doing service projects? And select all that apply. So think about any of the service projects that you've done, and have you learned any of these skills or others as you've done them? If you just do a bit of reflection right now for a minute. And hopefully everybody's got their answers in, and Danielle will give us results here in just a minute. Wow, that's awesome. So we've got 100% have learned teamwork or team management, 89% have learned efficiency or time management, 79% goal setting, and 95% communication, and other of 32%. So yes, and this is what I was hoping, if you took a little reflection, that yes, you do indeed learn a lot from doing service projects. Let's move on to the next poll question. And just give a quick yes or no answer. So are those skills considered to be leadership skills, do you think? Okay, go ahead and get your answers in. Danielle will give us poll results in a minute. Yeah, 100% yes. So yes, these are considered to be leadership skills. Some people would argue that they're management skills, and there's a difference between leadership and management skills, but in any case, yes, whether they're leadership or management skills, they are indeed very valuable for just about anything you choose to do in your life and your career. And so you can really learn a lot by practicing your leadership skills through service. Okay, let's go on, Danielle, to the next slide here. So to learn more, I always try to put in here a book or a reference or something where you can learn more. And this was just touching on an entire chapter, actually, in a book that is coming out. It's slated to be released this May, but we're saying summer 2016. And there's a new book coming out called Leadership Development Through Service Learning, edited by Wendy Wagner and Jennifer Pigza, who are both have their PhDs. And chapter 8 in the book is specifically on HOBY. So it's Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership using a theoretical model at the intersection of youth leadership education and service learning. And that's a really big, long academic title. What does that mean? It basically means the chapter talks about how HOBY takes all of the theory and puts it into practice, makes it a reality. So I would encourage you, and it is written for kind of the layperson. You know, you do not have to have a PhD to read this book. So, you know, a college student could definitely read this book. So the rest of the chapters have all different topics, but chapter 8 is specifically on HOBY, which is the last chapter in the book. So it is coming out this summer, hopefully May. I would encourage you to pick it up. Should be able to, you know, pick it up on Amazon and give it a read. Okay, and just some references for you, just so you know where some of these methodologies are coming from. if you wanted to look at the source materials. And we're ready for Q&A today. This has been a shorter session because the last two sessions were kind of the heavy lifting to understand each of the models, and in this session we're putting them together. So you can actually type your questions into your box there on your screen, and then Danielle will let me know what questions we have for today. So go ahead and take a minute and do that.
Great, so we got one that just came in. What does a typical group service project look like at a seminar, and what is the process?
Oh, typical group service project. You know, on the one hand, I would say there is no typical because it does vary so widely because we run programs across the country. We actually have a list of about, oh gosh, there's maybe 40 different service projects that we know will work in a seminar environment for high school students that we have a list of that we distribute to our volunteers, and they can pick something off of that, but they're actually not confined to that. They could choose something else. But in general, at a seminar, there's kind of three parts to it following the service learning methodology, which is the preparation to do the project. So that's learning about the project, learning about the organization, who the people are that are going to benefit, what's the purpose of the project, what is the societal problem that we're trying to address, answering kind of all of those questions. Then there's the actually doing the project, which is usually about 2 hours, could be a little more. And then the post part of the project is that reflection piece. So talking about what they learned during the project, either about themselves or about others, about leadership, about service, about the organization. Did they have any preconceived ideas going into the project and then actually learn something different? So lots of those sorts of reflection type questions, which are done in both small group and large groups, sometimes in journaling. And then talking about kind of the next step, like if you were going to do it again, what would you do differently, or what would the innovation be the next time around? So that whole process actually is about at least 6 hours of a seminar, so 2 hours of the preparation, 2 hours of the actual service, and then 2 hours of the post. And so that methodology is followed across the country. But what the actual service project is, as I said, can vary. At some seminars, it's actually all the students doing the same exact service project. So when you pool all of that manpower into 2 hours, you can actually get like a big project done. Sometimes if it's a really big seminar, they'll break the students up into groups, and there'll be many different service projects running all at the same time simultaneously, but addressing different things. So sometimes it's by the busload, sometimes it's by 20 students. It really kind of depends on the size of the seminar. So I hope that answered your question.
Great. The next one is, what is the most efficient group size for service projects? Because too big of a group could be hard to facilitate.
Yeah, so that's actually what I was alluding to earlier, which is that, so for example, if we have a seminar for 300 students, right, one project for 2 hours for 300 students can be a really big challenge. So there's two different methods that we use. In some cases, actually for our World Leadership Congress, we did do one huge project at Humboldt Park in Chicago, and it was a park cleanup. It's a very big park, but it was a park cleanup. We had about 500 people there, and it was a little over 2 hours, but they did everything. They did weeding and mulching and painting and cleaning up of the playground and, all sorts of things. So you can actually do a project with a very large group of people and have it be, kind of like one of those makeover situations, right? It takes a lot of planning, a lot of organization in advance, but it can be done. The other way is to, as I said, split up the group, right? So you might have multiple service projects. You might have each group of 10 people doing a different service project, or each group of 20 people doing a service project. So yes, sizing the project to the people or the people to the project, it can go either way, is extremely important. So for your Phi Sigma Pi chapter, if you have a chapter of, let's say, 50, one way to approach it is to find a project that's big enough for all 50 people to participate in. Another way to approach it is to have, 2 service projects of 25 people each, or 5 service projects of 10, for an example. So it can really be done either way. There is no, I would say, ideal size. It's about whatever the need is and how you can fulfill it.
Perfect. In
I hope
HOBY's,
that helps.
yes. In HOBY's L4S model, what does the innovate step include?
What does the innovate step include? Okay, so the innovate step, so after you've done the first 3 steps and you've done the reflection, so after you've done the reflection, as I said, it's really about what would you change for the next time around. If you were going to do the project again, what would you change for the next time around? Or if you were going to do a different project, what did you learn from this project that would inform how you approach the next project? Okay, does that make sense? So basically, what are your learnings and what, based on the reflection, and then what would you change for the next time around?
Yep, that makes sense. Does HOBY use SMART goals?
HOBY does use SMART goals. SMART goals are incorporated into all of our programs in some form. With the earlier programs, a little bit less in depth, a little later, very in depth. But yes, we do incorporate SMART goals. We do teach that. We actually have the students create them, and then in our programs, we even have them break them down into action steps based on the goal. For the Advanced Leadership Academy, they get a whole-blown project action plan to do there. So it's kind of at different levels, but yes, it is in all of our programs.
Perfect. The next question is, how does HOBY provide any resources to students to complete the L4S project on their own?
Oh, okay. So a couple things happen here. So the L4S project, when it's incorporated into one of our programs, that happens within the program. After each program, every student is encouraged or challenged to do 100 hours of volunteer service within 1 year following their program experience. And they can do that towards any project or cause of their choosing, or more than one project or cause of their choosing. And then we encourage them to log it on our website at hoby.org. So we do give them resources in terms of, where to look for service opportunities and things like that. For the Advanced Leadership Academy, they actually leave with a full-blown project action plan to implement within 1 year. So that program's a little bit different. But generally, at all of our programs, we start them on their way with having a positive volunteer service experience, and then how to kind of proceed with that on their own after. So I hope that answers your question.
And the next one is, how can our chapter go about partnering with the HOBY chapter to hold a service project?
Oh, most excellent question. Yes, we would love this because we like to do service projects throughout the year for our alumni as well. And they could be younger alumni still in high school, or college-age alumni, or older alumni. And we'd like to do those kind of, all times of the year. So the best way is to, if you go to Phi Sigma Pi website, and Danielle, maybe you can help me with the exact link where that map is.
I believe it's /service.
I think that's right. So it's phisigmapi.org/service. You will find a map of all of the HOBY locations. And then if you click on the pin for the location closest to you, you'll get contact information for the leaders at that site. And you want to connect with them and say, that you're from Phi Sigma Pi and you're interested in doing a joint service project. and get started that way. So our volunteers have resources for service projects. I know that you all, have service projects, and maybe there's something that you want to do and you would just invite HOBY to participate. But yes, we would love some joint service projects. That would be great.
Now is our last question. Do you have anything else to add, Vicki?
I don't. I think I'm good. Really good questions today, everybody.
Great. Well, thank you, Vicki, for discussing the HOBY methodology with us today. You will be able to watch all 3 webinars that Vicki joined us for this term on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Phi Sigma Pi. Lunch and Learn webinars will be coming back in the fall, so stay tuned for dates and topics. Thank you again for participating today, and congratulations on earning 8 Leadership in Action points. Remember, your goal is to reach 75 points to earn your Leadership in Action certification. You can earn points by participating in local, regional, and national modules or monthly tweet meets in the Lunch and Learn webinars. This month's tweet meet will be taking place on Thursday, April 14th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The topic is planning ahead for next year. You can RSVP at phisigmapi.org/tweet and eat. And that does it for today's Leadership in Action Lunch and Learn webinar. Lead on.